The day I was forced to change my routines unexpectedly because of my new neighbor, I truly felt something terrible would happen to me soon. I no longer opened certain windows, I carefully checked the locks more than necessary, and I only took showers when I knew my neighbor wasn't home. But none of these things made me feel particularly safe, honestly. Still, yet I kept doing them. I live alone in a small house on the edge of a quiet street. It's usually quite quiet here, so sounds at night are remarkably clear indeed now, actually. I work from my house and don't have many guests. And I like to know exactly what's going on around me. Everything started when a strange man moved in and quickly became my neighbor. He was a quiet man, coming and going silently, always alone, and always carrying a small plastic bag tightly tied at the top. He caught my attention because I never, at any time of day, saw him consistently without that bag. At first, I ignored him. But later, I realized how intensely my body became when he was nearby, and how I started to fear him in a way. One night, he came to my door and knocked gently. That night, I was already uneasy. I had locked everything, turned off most of the lights, and was getting ready to go to sleep. He knocked very softly, quietly, not loud or hurried, which only made my fear worse. When I opened the door, he was standing quite close, so close I could smell his tension and see the dry skin on his face. He didn't apologize for the late hour. He didn't step back. In a calm, monotonous tone, he asked, "Do you have milk?" "I just need a little. My milk is finished." I didn't want to help him, but I did. I took out the packet of milk and gave it to him without letting him come inside. His finger touched mine longer than necessary, and he smiled in a way that seemed to suggest he was pleased with what he'd done. When I closed the door, my heart was pounding. I locked it and stood there for a few seconds, listening. That night, I hardly slept. A few days later, I noticed a small new window in his house. It was higher than the other windows and directly in front of my bedroom. I was certain he had built that window recently. This window made me feel even more anxious than before. After that, I avoided standing near the windows. I drew the curtains earlier every day. My movements became cautious, as if I were trying not to attract attention. The first time I saw him, he was watching me. It was nighttime. He was standing inside that half-finished window, staring directly at my room. He wasn't leaning or pretending to be doing something else. His focus was on me. After that, I could find him everywhere, in the store, in the hallways, standing behind my back. On the street, I could hear his footsteps following mine. I was extremely nervous. Even at home, I was anxious, especially at night. Fear was no longer just a thought. It had turned into a constant, unsettling physical sensation. Before I confronted him, I spent days quietly trying to convince myself I was overreacting. That deep fear made me see patterns that simply didn't exist. But my mind refused to believe these excuses. One day, he came out toward me, and I became extremely anxious. I shouted at him to leave me alone and stop watching me. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. I lied and told him I had a spouse, hoping he would lose interest. He smiled calmly and stepped forward, saying, "I really know that's not true. I know you don't have anyone." Then he started listing the details of my life in a quiet, unsettling way that terrified me. My schedule, my habits, who visits me, and how long I stay in the shower. Standing there, I felt utterly, completely defenseless. I ran inside, locked everything, and called my friend. I asked her to come stay with me. She said okay, but it would take about 30 minutes for her to arrive. Waiting alone was quite hard and unbearable. Every sound made my heart race. I sat quietly on my bed. The TV was on, but I wasn't paying attention at all now. I kept checking my phone. I didn't realize when he entered the house. One moment I was alone, and the next he was in my bedroom. He moved quickly, leaving me no time to react. I had no time for anything. In the blink of an eye, He was in front of me and grabbed me. He tied my hands and, before I could scream, quickly and silently covered my mouth. He dragged me out and forced me into his car. The space was cramped and the air heavy. As the car started moving, every turn made my body slam hard against the metal frame. The drive seemed endlessly. I had completely lost track of direction. My wrists ached, breathing became difficult, and terror filled my entire mind. I tried quietly to make some little noise, but no one heard me. When the trunk door opened, the cold air hit my face so hard that I lost my breath. I no longer saw houses, only complete darkness. He dragged me toward the trees. There, in that complete darkness, I experienced moments that still make my breath catch when I remember them. He stood in front of me and began speaking in that calm, terrifying tone. He told me I had deeply embarrassed him and that I needed to understand what happens to people who think they can truly escape his wrath. Hours passed, slowly, quietly, or maybe less. Time had slipped away from me. My body was trembling, and I had no strength left to resist. When he finally decided to finish me off, I felt a pain I had never experienced in any nightmare. Complete darkness enveloped everything, and I thought I would never wake up again. But fortunately, the police arrived before it was too late. My friend had called the police when I didn't answer the doorbell, and they quickly tracked his car. A few days later, I woke up in the hospital. My body was covered in wounds and serious injuries that took months to heal. My friend, who was there, was crying. She told me that the man's name was Joshua Wade and that he had been on the run previously, and that I wasn't his first unfortunate victim. Fortunately, I survived, but I no longer live alone now. Some wounds stay in your memory and soul, lingering quietly like shadows for the rest of your life. I hope you enjoyed this video immensely. Please like the video and don't forget to subscribe.